This is Trivial Knits. My name is Laura, and this is a YouTube channel where we talk about trivial knitting projects. And by trivial, I mean accessories, things with bright colors, things that might not match anything else you own, but things that are just really fun to look at while you're making them, whether or not you need another knitted item in your closet or not. And the other reason I call this channel Trivial Knits is that I like trivia. I'm a two-time Jeopardy champion. When I was on Jeopardy, we did not get to talk about yarn and fiber and wool related trivia. A little too niche for a national game show. But on this channel, I do trivia about wool, fiber, yarn. So at the end of every video, I pose a trivia question, and if you know the answer, you can answer in the comments below. And there's no prize, it is just for the glory and the fun of learning something new about our hobbies. I live in Los Angeles. I have been knitting for about 20 years now. And as I said, I mostly knit accessories. I am on sort of a mission to get into more natural wools, woolly wools, learning about different sheep breeds. So that's what I'm trying to do here. My last video was everything I knit in 2024, and thank you for the warm reception of that video. This video is going to be my 2025 plans. So I will talk about the works in progress that I am bringing into the year with me. I have a make 9, so the 9 items that have mostly been sitting in my queue for a long time, but this is the year they're going to get made. And I'm trying to use up my yarn stash a bit this year and really limit my new acquisitions. So I have yarn planned out for all of those 9 projects. So I'll show you what I'm thinking of using. And then I have one new acquisition that I did get in 2025 that I need ideas for what to make with it. So I'll share that at the end and you can tell me your suggestions. And then, of course, we'll end with our trivia question at the very end of the video. So I think that covers everything. Let's get into it. My finished objects are over across the room. Let me get up and grab them. All right. And if you saw the item behind me on my chair, that is the Lindell cardigan that I am not wearing. It is not cold enough to need to wear it today. That is a design by Ona Walton using Junction fiber mill yarns. And you will be seeing more Junction fiber mill yarns in this video. And in fact, you'll see some right now. This is the Astria shawl. Let's see if I can back up so you can see the whole thing. So this is a pattern by Ambah O'Brien, who I think has several patterns that are good for yarn advents. That kind of is how I discovered Ambah O'Brien. And this one is no exception. I don't think it's particularly written for an advent, but I did use one of my advents. Actually, it's the Solstice Box that came last year from Junction Fiber Mill. I'm going to put it on to show how I wear it. So this is using Junction Fiber Mill Making Tracks Light. That's their sport weight yarn. And I modified the way the pattern was written very slightly. It is written to use stripes or color blocking, but I believe the pattern just calls for 2 row stripe alternating, 1 garter bump per color. But I had more of the color changing yarn and less of the solid color, just undyed white yarn. So I knew I needed to sort of change the ratio of the stripes there. So I did 4 rows of the color changing alternated with 2 rows of the solid. And I love how this turned out. I love this yarn. Like it's woolly without being itchy to me. And obviously they do beautiful colors. Because this was the Solstice Box from 2024, I didn't get to pick the colors, but I kind of like that. It kind of gets me out of my comfort zone. I would always pick this color if I had the choice, this sort of citrus green. But this box came with oranges and purples and blues and a little bit of brown. So it's always just kind of fun to like make something you wouldn't necessarily have designed that way and see how it turns out. The one tricky thing about this one, I do recommend it for Advents, but the one tricky thing about this design is that you start here in the middle here, and then you do increases to make this sort of semicircle part. It's almost like a, let's see, semi-decahedron, maybe? I don't know. And then you put stitches on hold. So this part here, the middle part, you stop knitting on, and then you do each leg of the shawl or scarf arm leg. I don't know. I call it a leg. It's like a starfish leg. I don't know. So on one side, I'm continuing with the color changing yarn as I had started with it, and it just kind of naturally transitioned away. On the other side, I had to start new because these stitches had been on hold. I think I picked the skeins from the Advent well, so I don't even know if you would know that if I hadn't told you. But it worked out. And it's meant to be sort of a kaleidoscope of colors, so I don't think anyone's complaining if the colors seem to change abruptly. And then at the end, you do the I-cord border all at the end, which is not necessarily my preferred way. I often think about, okay, maybe if I could just do the I-cord as I go, but I do like the way the border frames it, and I knew it was probably going to be a different color than what I had worked with for the body of the scarf. And so by the time I finished knitting the scarf and needed to do the border, I only really had kind of purple colors left, which purple is not, it's probably my least favorite color. But again, it's just kind of trusting the process. So I did a purple border on it, and I think it turned out good. I like it. I've worn this probably almost every day since I finished it. I finished it on New Year's Day when I was stuck on the couch with I sprained my ankle very severely, so I couldn't walk for several days. So I got a lot of knitting done while that was happening. And so I did the whole I-cord border in one day, but it took pretty much all day. But it was, in a way, a relaxing day, even though I was recovering from an injury. So yeah, Astria Shawl, Ambah O'Brien, Junction Fiber Mill, first finished object of 2025. Love it. Goes right to the top of my list. Wearing it all the time. All right, second finished object of the year is the Quadra Cowl. And this is by Martina Behm. I have knitted several of her items, or at least a few of her items before. So in my 2024 roundup, you would have seen, I think, at least 2 of her patterns. So this, there's different ways. So it's a folded, or it's a double layer cowl. And you can sort of, once it's all seamed together, you can rearrange the layers a bit. So this is the way it's, I think this is the way it's like you're supposed to make it. You start it here from this point. You're knitting it flat, and you're just knitting a square, basically. Then there's these 2 rows where I cannot explain what happens. You get extra needles, circular needles, and it's like you go through a wormhole with your needles, and you've suddenly created this like 3-dimensional 2-layered cowl. And then you finish knitting. You're not knitting flat anymore when you're doing the second half of it. But I can't even wrap my head around like what you're knitting, like which part of it you're knitting. But so this part is where I started, and this part is where I ended. Cannot explain to you the construction that happened in between. You just have to buy the pattern, and there are videos that walk you through how to do those 2 rows where you're making the cowl happen. And you just have to trust the process and follow the steps in the video and hope it works. And it might not work the first time. But fortunately, I got it to work. And so this was using all the leftovers that I had from one of my Hedgehog Fibres advents. Well, the only Hedgehog Fibres advent that I have ordered, but it's from 2022, I think. So it's not one of the recent ones. And it was a fingering weight minis. So I held them double because this is a DK weight pattern. And I just knit until I ran out, and then I did the next color and the next color and the next color. So I didn't even change the order. I did it in the order it came in the advent. And then when I ran out of those, I did have one skein of DK merino hand dyed. This is Botanical yarns. And I thought it coordinated pretty well with the Hedgehog Fibres yarns. So I finished it off with that. So there's quite a big panel of that color or block of that color. And that I usually wear on the inside. So, okay, so this is how the cowl is sort of meant to be worn. I'm going to put it on. So it's good. It's like, as I mentioned in previous videos, I do not like a floppy cowl. This one's only slightly floppy, and it's narrow enough that it's not too floppy for me. Oh, and you can kind of control how the circumference of your cowl, because those two rows where you do the whatever, you're stopping when you get to the point of the circumference you want, and it's explained in the pattern how to figure out where that point is for you. But so yeah, so this is the way it's sort of intended to be worn, but I sort of like to fold it a little bit differently. It's not that different in the way it looks, but it sort of results in more of a parallelogram. It's hard to show here. More of a parallelogram than a rectangle or a tube. And so I like that because then you've kind of got, it's like higher here than here and lower here. I'm going to put it on to show you what I mean. So it results in a little bit tighter fit somehow, and it's like angled. So this kind of comes up. Let me turn this way so I'm not as far from the microphone. So this one like kind of comes up, and this kind of comes down where my chin is. This comes over my chest, and it's like higher in the back where my neck would be. So I actually find this way of wearing it a little bit better. I don't know, maybe it looks dorkier. But I like this a little bit better. And it, the colors are so all over the place that it doesn't really matter which way you wear it. And this way you get to see a little bit more of the Botanical yarn, that color block in the back. So yeah, that's my Quadra cowl. Martina Behm, Behm, is the designer on that one. All right, and then my third finished object of the year is a test knit that I just completed. The pattern I think is releasing in February, so it won't be out for a few weeks, but it's called the Sandywell scarf. The designer on this is somebody I found through YouTube. His channel is called Jimmy Does Knitting. He is based in Amsterdam. So he designed this, he's calling it a hooded scarf. I mean, it's a scarf with a sort of a wider section, so you can sort of decide how you want to use it. You could pull it up over your head kind of as a hood, or more as like a higher neck warming part of the scarf. Let's see if I can show you like how the whole thing works. So it's just, you start at one end and you're doing this sort of knit and purl stitch pattern, and you can do it to any length you want, although there's a suggested length in the pattern. And then you get to some increases, you have a little straight section, and then some decreases, and then you do the same length to end the scarf, and you bind off. And so I'll show you kind of how you would wear it. I mean, you can kind of pull it up over your head. There is no shaping, like a hood shape to it, so it makes it like flexible in that way. You don't have to use it as a hood. This is how I would wear it. I would wrap it around a couple times. And what I am planning to do, which is not in the pattern, is seam it up here. That's why I have this very long tail. Seam it up so it is kind of more of a cowl. But I think it works fine without. If you're going to wear a coat, you just, you know, put the coat over it. You could also just wear it like that, I suppose. I also like the way it looks with, you know, just kind of like tails, or just, you could wrap it around your neck with like a nice, like, you know, the air and snow is not going to get in because it's almost like a little shawl collar, and just wear it as a regular scarf. I think that's a good look. So yeah, this is like fresh off the needles for the test knit. And again, I think if you just follow Jimmy Does Knitting on YouTube, Instagram, Ravelry, you'll see when the pattern comes out. The yarn I used, so the pattern is written for Manchilopes by Wool Dreamers. That's the unspun sheep yarn or sheep wool. That I have some in my stash, but I didn't have enough for this whole item. And I also don't love using it, as I talked about a little bit in previous videos. So I opted to use a different yarn from my stash. This is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the color Pomegranate. I think it is showing up quite true to color on camera right now. If not slightly orangier than it is in real life, it is a red, but it's like a brick red color to me. Not really the color of a pomegranate, I have to say, but I like the color a lot. So yeah, I think it's a good yarn for the pattern. I talked about in my last video, I don't love this yarn. I think it looks really nice. It's a nice round yarn. I think it's like ethically made. That's very important to that company, to Knitting for Olive. But it's not super soft to me, and it's a little dry feeling. I don't know how to explain that. Just compared to other wools, like natural wools that I've used. This is non-superwash. So yeah, Sandywell scarf. I maybe will leave this on for a second while I'm talking. Okay, so those are all my finished objects. I've just finished 3 things for the year so far. I do have 3 works in progress right now, 2 of which are coming from 2024 into the new year with me. So let me grab those. So the first one is Textures Unite, which is a Stephen West Knits shawl. I am not very far into it, despite the fact that I've been working on it for many months. I don't even know when I cast this on, but it might have been 2023. I don't remember. So you begin with, so it's modular. It's made in like 5 or 6 sections with 6 different colors of yarn, I think. So the first section uses 2 colors, and it's 2-color brioche. You make a big triangle out of that. Then you pick up, I think you pick up stitches on it. And it's garter stitch stripes with 2 different colors. And then as you continue, you add in different colors and different textures in the different modular sections. So I've got a long way to go on this shawl. This is fingering weight. I'm using Knitting for Olive merino, not heavy merino. I don't know if you can tell, but this is the same color. This is pomegranate is the red that I started with. And this is powder, which is like a kind of a pink, a very pale pink. My brioche stitches are not looking great here, but that'll black out, right? And then these 2 colors are rust and dark ochre, I believe. And then the remaining 2 colors that I will be working into future sections are these. My camera, sometimes greens don't show up great on it. This color is pretty true to itself. I think this color is like sage or dust. Maybe this is like the dusty artichoke that everyone likes. I don't know. Let me see if I can find the ball band, because that's annoying if I don't know it. Well, I don't know, but I think that's what it is. And that's showing up pretty good on camera. The camera is really robbing it of its beauty. This is mustard, I think, and it's much more yellow in person. Oh no, this is the dark ochre that I've already been using. This is the mustard, which also doesn't look even close to mustard on the camera. It's a much more vibrant golden greeny yellow than it's looking on camera, sadly. But so that'll be a 6-color fingering weight shawl. It'll probably take me at least another year to finish it. All right, and then one more. One more from 2024, and that is the Dustland skinny scarf. This is another Stephen West pattern. This was in his mini or ebook of mini shawls, using his sort of signature Guernsey pattern that he's used in many other things. I think I did the Dustland Cowl last year, so I did show that in my 2024 video. So this is just going to be a small scarf. I am using Berroco Vintage in the color orange. I've said this before about this yarn, but it reads more red to me, to my eye, and it reads pretty true to what the camera is showing. So I don't know if you would call that orange. I would call it more of an orangey red, but in any case, that's what it is. This I just bought because of the color. I just love the color so much. Even though it has a high acrylic content, which I'm trying not to use so much. I don't have like a moral opposition to it, really. So I bought it because I like the color. So that is what that's going to be. And I'm just going to knit until I run out of half of what I have, and then start decreasing. So this, I don't know how large it'll end up being. It might be a little bit bigger than a mini scarf, which is fine. I like it to be a little more substantial. So this again was the Dustland skinny scarf. And I started that in December, late December, I think. So it's barely a 2024 whip, but I'm going to finish it in 2025. All right. My last whip is the first thing on my Make 9. So I guess I'll show you the whip and then we'll talk about my Make 9. So these are the Bearpaw Socks. The designer is Andrea Mowry. And this is like her version of her everyday socks in DK weight. So she has the DRK everyday socks that everybody has made. Those are fingering weight. They're a 2x2 ribbed sock. I made one of those socks last year and was like, this is not for me. I don't think I have another one in me. It's a little monotonous. So I was like, okay, now I'll do the DK version, and that'll help me use up my stash because I had these DK sock yarns in my stash. And I would get to do some socks. I want to maybe do more socks this year. And this pattern was already in my library. I don't know when I bought it, but I did. So, the main color here is a yellow yarn. Again, not showing up as yellow as it is. It is a golden, just primary kind of yellow, by Botanical yarn. And that was actually, gifted to me at Woolen Folk festival. It was the Woolen Folk that was like the disaster and that ended all the Woolen Folks. But it was the sort of pre-festival for Rhinebeck, New York Sheep and Wool in 2023. And Sophie from Botanical Yarn came all the way to New York from Yorkshire to show her yarn, and I don't think had a great experience, but very kindly gifted me a skein of yarn before it fell in the mud at Woolen Folk. So I've had this in my stash since that weekend, which was in October of 2023. So I was just kind of waiting for something to use it for. So these socks are perfect. So I'm making the socks 2 at a time, but I'm just using 2 separate needles. So it's not like I'm doing the magic loop trick to do them 2 at a time. I just am making both socks, and I'm trying to, like, as I make progress on one, I'll like catch up with the other one. So like I did the toes first for both, and I did the foot, then I did the heel gusset, then I did the heel. It's not a flap, the Flegel heel, I think is what it is. And then I'm doing the legs of the socks now. And the pinks are also Botanical yarn. These are ones that I had purchased They were minis that were in my stash from a mini skein set from years ago. So I'm going to do the ankles another shade of pink as well. So these are good. I mean, I think these will be good, like hanging around the house, sleeping in bed when it's cold kind of socks. I don't know that they're like very practical for wearing with shoes because they are thick. They're DK weight, but they'll be very cozy at home, I think. Okay, so that brings me to my Make 9. So I'm going to put the picture here, and I'm just going to leave this picture up and reference the patterns in it. I'm not going to, I don't have a lot of bandwidth for editing these videos, to be totally honest, or even for like having very good notes on all the patterns. If I am able to add those, I will put them in the notes below, but that was one of the things that was holding me back from recording videos, was just like getting all that other prep and production and stuff going. So I think if it's the choice between no video or a video with not as many notes and edits and graphics, we're just going to go with that. So if you are curious about any of the patterns that I talk about or have made or my Make 9, go to my Instagram. I know Instagram has its problems. I'm still there for now. I'm Trivial Knits on Instagram. You can see I'm pretty diligent about documenting the things I finish and my Make 9 and stuff there. So if you're looking for pattern names, or designer names or yarns, it's all on my Instagram. So that's where I will send you. Okay, so the Make 9. So you can see on the top row, I have the Bearpaw Socks. Those are already a work in progress. I'm sure I will finish them soon. They are now at a point where they're a very good portable project because I'm just doing the leg. There's no instructions I need to follow. So it may be a while because they might just become my, bag that I bring to meetings or running errand, taking the kids to things or whatever. So we'll see when those get finished. The next item is the Triagonal Chalet. That is by Ambah O'Brien. It's not necessarily written for Advent yarn, but I do think I'm going to use leftover Advent yarn for it. So these are my leftovers from, they're not in the original bag. And I'll try not to rustle it, sorry. These are my leftovers from the Grenouille Fiber Advent. And it's a combination of the 2023 Advent, which was the bioluminescence, and then a mini skein set that was based on the 2022 Advent. Oh, that I can't remember what it was called, but it was a lot of greens that I really liked. So I think to make this shawlette, I'm going to need 5 minis that I'm going to, I think, marl or fade to be kind of an ombre look in the shawlette. So I'm considering a couple different combinations from this grab bag. I might do kind of a teal ombre, like a greeny teal look, or I might do more of a earthy green kind of look with these colors. Maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll really like the way that pattern goes. And I'll just use up all this yarn. I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be a long haul to use up all these scraps, but that's part of my goal for 2025 is just to try to knit only from stash so that I am using up yarn. And the reason for that is nothing to do with like not wanting a big stash or being stressed out by my stash or anything like that. It's that I have run out of room. So I have these sort of, I have these IKEA cabinets behind me. I don't know if you can see them great, with glass doors. And I actually love that way of storing my yarn. I love the glass door, and just being able to like see it all, but no, it's kind of protected in there. And my stash no longer fits just in the cabinets. So what I want to do is get it down to a place where it all fits in a cabinet. So I don't have just like extra bins and bags laying around my office with more yarn in it. So that's why I'm trying to use up stash and not bring in too much new stuff. So that's what we're doing for 2025. Okay, so that was my second of my Make 9. The third is the Manhattan Cowl. I'm almost positive that's what it's called. It's by Tori or Tori Knits, who I follow on Instagram. They have I think the first pattern in that little series was a Manhattan hat. And this is a cowl based on it. I believe it calls for worsted weight yarn. So let me find the yarn I'm planning to use for that. So I was gifted a few more skeins of this Berroco vintage, very kindly by some friends. This is kind of a surprise holiday gift. So these aren't necessarily colors like I would have picked. I like them though. I think they're kind of cool. So I'm going to try and use this up and maybe make it into that Manhattan cowl and maybe gift it to somebody or keep it if I end up liking it. I don't think I'm going to need all of this, but I have to decide if I want to do kind of a color block or stripes or what. So we'll see. I may also just use a different worsted yarn for my stash because I have quite a bit of worsted yarn. But this is the idea for this so far. Okay, next item. So the next one, we're now in the middle row all the way on the left, is the Grid Gambit cowl. And this is a kind of recently released pattern by Samantha Guerin that I just love the way it looked. I love that stitch pattern. And I've liked that pattern or similar patterns for a while, but I've been sort of waiting for the right design to come along. And I do like a cowl. So I'm going to give this one a shot. It calls for DK or sport weight. I'm going to go DK because I don't like a floppy cowl, as you know. And so I think this is the color combo I'm going to use. And again, this is like criminally overexposed on my camera. So you're not seeing, it's not doing justice at all. This is like a chartreuse. So again, go to my Instagram when I finish this item and you'll see it looking much better. So this is Ewetopia Helix DK, 100% Rambouillet and Targhee wool. And this is a color changing marled yarn. So this is going to be the contrast color. And then this is going to be my main color, basically because I have limited options in terms of the amount of yardage I need. So I have this full skein of Westwool Tandem in the color Wellington, which is like a forest green. So I think that'll go well enough with this and go with my jacket and everything. So that's going to be the Grid Gambit cowl. Oh, and I guess I should say they're both non-superwash. This is Falkland Merino and Texel. I think this is the old formulation of Westwool Tandem. I think now it's 100% Merino, Falkland. I'm not sure. Still superwash, still same colors, but the fiber content's a little bit different now. So this has been in my stash for quite a while, and I'm ready to use it up. Okay, so that was my fourth item in my Make 9 for 2025. Next is the Auri cowl. And this is one, it's a Colorwork Cowl. It's by Alicia Plummer, I want to say. And I saw people wearing it at Woolen Folk and Rhinebeck in 2023. And I really liked the way it looked. So, and I had seen it online before that, but I was really sold by seeing it in person, which is always nice when something is like, it looks even better in person than online. So let me show you the yarn I'm planning to use. So this is a sport weight cowl. So I have a few skeins of this Brooklyn Tweed Imbue Sport, which is American Merino wool. The color is Cloak. It's like I guess it's like a burgundy. To me, it leans a little bit more brown than like a wine color, but it is a reddish, quite red. You would never call this brown, but it's not, there's no purple to it, in my opinion. So that's going to be the main color. And then I have these two skeins of Spincycle dyed in the wool, sport weight, in the color Close Call. And I bought these at Knit New Haven when I was there visiting my friend over the holidays who lives in New Haven. So, you know, when I go to a local yarn store, that's often where I'm buying yarn. As I mentioned before, I'm not super in love with my local yarn stores, the ones that are very close to me and convenient and I would be stopping in all the time. I don't tend to buy yarn there. So I kind of like treat myself when I go on vacations or travel to go to the local yarn store in that location. And then when you're there and you see the Spincycle in person, it's like you got to kind of get it if you like the way the skeins look, because it is hard to order online and know what you're going to get. So that's what I did. These are like souvenir skeins from Knit New Haven. And they're, you know, they're also showing up a bit more muted on the camera than they are, but I think they'll go pretty well with this for the Auri cowl. So that's the plan for that. Okay, then next is the long skinny. That is in the middle row all the way to the right. And this one's been in my library forever. I don't even know why I originally bought it, what I thought I was going to do with it, but that's what I'm going to use up another Advent with. So let me grab the Advent to show you. So this is, like you can see it without me tipping it. This is the Knotty Pine 2024 Advent. I'm using another company's container for it that I've just saved so I could use it for this purpose. And so you can see it's sort of a stripy fade. It goes from like kind of darker tonals and lighter speckle alternating. So it's going to be good for the long skinny. I think you can see from the picture, it's like an alternating stripe kind of pattern. And then I believe it has an applied I-cord. And so for that, I'm going to use the sock set that came with that Knotty Pine Fiber Company Advent set. So maybe not the mini, but this I think I'll have enough to do the whole I-cord border. And we know it will coordinate with all the colors in the scarf because it came with the Advent. So yeah, this is their Bighorn sock yarn, which is superwash merino and nylon. And all the yarns from the Advent are the same. So that's going to make a long skinny scarf. It's not just a clever name. And I think I can knit it in a way that I'll just be using up each color until it's gone and then moving on to the next color. So it will really be a good stash buster. All right, then we're now to the bottom row. So the first one in the lower left is Born Slippy. That's a free pattern from Hedgehog Fibres. I am not planning to use Hedgehog Fibres yarn for it. This is one it's a free pattern. So it's been in my library for a long time. I'm just kind of waiting for like, oh, if I have a yarn that's good for that one, I'll use it. And I received some yarn from a subscription box that I think will be a good fit. So let me grab it. So this is the Junction Fiber Mill 2024 subscription. And it was a quarterly installment of yarns. And the last quarter came in January. So it's the January acquisition kind of, even though I paid for it the year before. So I'll show you what they sent. Apologies for the rustling. It comes with this little card, and the theme for this box is Enchanted Forest. And so the yarns here are their farm fresh, 100% New England wool. I believe it's a natural color. It's kind of it's not white. You wouldn't call this white or even cream. It's more of a fawn, tan. I don't know. So this has some alpaca in it. Corriedale wool from a local farm and some alpaca from another local farm. Gotta do the smell. It smells fresh, like fresh sheep and alpaca. So I got 2 skeins of this, and then they sent a coordinating making tracks skein. That I think it's like a special, oh no, it's Enchanted Forest. I don't know if that is a limited edition colorway, if you can always buy it, or if it's just for this box. Sometimes they do things in the box as a little test run, I think, and then they become available to everyone. So it's like a color changing with green, browns, and a little tiny bit of purple. So that's what I'm going to use for the Born Slippy. This will be the main color, and then these will be the slip stitches. So I think it's going to have a really good look because on the one side, on the front side, right side, it'll be, you know, pretty subtle blips of color in a just kind of a classic neutral. And then on the back, I think you're going to see the strands from the slip stitches, and this will be much more prominent. So I think that'll look cool. So that's my plan. I was planning to subscribe to this mailbox again. It is a little bit expensive, but I just really like getting like new, fresh, you know, 100% made in New England wool every quarter with like something surprising. But they're not, I don't think they're doing it in 2025. And I actually asked for gift cards to Junction Fiber Mill from like my family for my Christmas presents so that I could afford to do the subscription box, but I don't think they're going to do the subscription box. So I might just save my gift cards for the Solstice Box again, or if they come out with a new yarn that I want to get, I may do that. So that was that. That's going to be the Born Slippy. Then, and Junction Fiber Mill has a podcast themselves. It's called The Millcast. It's delightful. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels, so I do recommend them. You may even be here because you saw me on that podcast, so you probably already know about it if that's you. But everyone else, go check them out. The next pattern is the Block Shawl by Jean-Philippe Cliché or Atelier Cliché. And that calls for Aran weight yarn. And I have some Aran in my stash as well, so I'm going to grab that. I'm actually going to use 5 colors, but the other ones are like skeins I've already dug into, so they're not as easy to show. But these are the other colors I'm going to use. These are from the Yarn Addict company. This was, I don't know, 2023 maybe. I subscribed to their monthly like club because I was like, oh, I don't have much Aran in my stash. This is cool. It's a non-superwash merino. And I like the colors I got, but as you can see, I like didn't really know what to do with them so much. So that's why I'm going to use them up, hopefully, in this block shawl. So there's these 3 and then 2 others. So I'll be working on that. And then the last thing I want to make is the baseline cardigan. And that was actually on my Make 9 for 2024, but I ended up making the Lindell cardigan behind me instead. And I only have so many garments in me in a year. So my goal is to have that cardigan made by Rhinebeck 2025, which I am planning to attend. My Rhinebeck sweater for 2023 was the pullover version of that pattern, the baseline sweater. And I really liked it. I like it a lot. I love a sideways knit garter stitch garment. I got a lot of compliments on it. A lot of people stopped to ask what the pattern was. So I'm feeling good about making the cardigan version. I do have some of the yarn for it. I will show you what I have. So this is another set of skeins that I got in the Junction Fiber Mill Mill Box subscription. These came, I don't know, maybe in the fall. So these are 3 of their Making Tracks colorways. This was Heyday, and this is the color that you see in this cardigan. So it color shifts. Again, you cannot tell it's green, but there are greens in it. Green, yellow, orange. And in the subscription box, they sent the 2 components, like the 2 plies that they use to make this yarn. So one of those is this, which they're calling Heyday Strand 1, or S1. Does it stand for strand? I don't know. And again, you cannot see it on camera, but it's a very chartreuse green. And then the other strand is the orange with a little bit of green in it too. And this is Heyday S2. I think you may be able to now purchase these. At the time I got the box, you could only get the combo, but I think you might be able to get these now just like from their online shop or at a festival or something. So this is what I'm planning to do for the sweater. I'm going to do the striped version. I'm going to use this as the stripes. I think I'll probably, start with one of the strands, then go to the combo, then the other strand. But I need a main color to contrast with the stripes. And that's where I don't have anything in my stash that I have enough yardage of. And I'm not sure what I want to do. I think this would look the best with a navy blue or a very dark teal, like kind of similar to my wall color behind me. What do you think? I think that would be a good combo. I don't need another like orangish, ochre-ish sweater, which I already have, which is kind of my other go-to color. So I'm basically just waiting to find the right yarn that comes in that color. And I want to buy it in person so that I can make sure it will work. But I am on a little bit of a time crunch because it has to be done by October. So I can't buy the yarn at Rhinebeck. I need to buy it before. So my plan is, I know that Junction Fiber Mill is coming out with more solid colors soon. I'm going to see what they come out with, and see if there's a good solid that will go. I mean, I know it'll go with their yarn because it's the same, or very similar, milled in the same way. If I can't get that, I might do like a Cascade 220, but again, I want to see it in person. So I don't know if any of my local yarn stores carry it. So we'll have to see. I know that Michigan Fine Yarns carries it, and I am planning to go to Michigan in the spring. So that might be kind of my last. If I haven't gotten anything by then, I'll pick a color then that works and buy it. So those are my plans for 2025. I am sure I will knit more than 9 items, but those items I definitely want to do. I want to get them out of my queue, use up all the yarn that I showed, and it'll be good. I have one other acquisition that I mentioned. So I've seen a lot of YouTubers recommend this yarn. It is Patton's Croy sock yarn. I've used this before like 15 years ago, when I was really only buying yarn at Joann's and Michael's. And I made a pair of socks with it. But I don't know. I've seen so many people recommend it recently that I wanted to give it a try. So I went to my local Joann, which, is always a little bit of a mess. And they didn't have much in stock, but they did have this color, which was a color I had in mind to look for. This is Midnight Orchid, and it's greens and pinks and like mauves kind of, which is a color combination I like a lot. So, but now I need to know what to make with it. I bought enough to make a pair of socks, but I don't know if that's what I want to do with it. That seems kind of boring. So if you have a pattern that you think would be a good use of 100 grams of Patton's Croy self-striping, let me know. I mean, it could be a Musselburgh. It could be just a hat. If there's a certain pair of socks, like a sock pattern you think would look really good with this and be kind of interesting, not just like a vanilla sock, or a basic sock, let me know that too, if you have ideas. All right, so that's it. I'm going to wrap up the video now. We'll do the trivia. So my trivia question for this week, because I am planning to make a cardigan for 2025, my question is about the word cardigan. And so the fact I will share with you first is that the word cardigan first appeared in print in 1868. And my trivia question for you is, what is the source of the word cardigan? And here I'm talking about cardigan as a sweater that buttons up or opens in the front. So it's named for a particular reason. I won't say more than that. But if you know the inspiration for the word cardigan, meaning a sweater, you can type that in one of the boxes below. I mean, in the comments below. And again, no prize, just the satisfaction of knowing you knew it. Or if you want to look it up and type it there, no one will know. So you could do that too. So that's my trivia question I'm leaving you with today. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel so you can see how these works in progress. If I actually do my Make 9, I might show more of my yarn stash that I'm trying to use up, just to kind of share it and be accountable. So maybe in a future video, I'll do that. If you are interested in yarn stash videos, let me know. I always like seeing other people's stashes, especially if they knit with similar yarns to me. If it's like a whole bunch of worsted weight acrylic, I'm a little less interested in seeing how they're going to stash that down. But if you are interested, I have a lot of sort of non-superwash wools and a lot of different colors and a lot of color changing yarns. So I could show those off if people are interested in seeing it. So let me know. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye.